HCAM News is supported by our viewers and by Hopkinton Drug, located in this historic New England town since 1954. They are a multifaceted store dedicated to providing clients with an array of healthcare options.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of HCAM News. I'm HCAM News Director Tom Nappy, here to fill you in with what's happening in Hopkinton. On today's busy edition of HCAM News, we talked with new Hopkinton High School Athletic Director Ricky Andrade. Sidhi Dhanda caught up with Town Clerk Connor Degan on a brand new episode of Out on the Town, plus much more. But first, the Select Board recently approved the ESBC plan for the new Elmwood School. The Elementary School Building Committee presented their budget proposal for the Elmwood School replacement to the Select Board.
The committee has been doing an extensive amount of work over the last number of months to refine the design to get us to the point where we're ready to submit our first schematic design to the MSBA. This represents what we call sort of a 30% design, which is we're about 30% through the design, but at this time we need to set the project budget and schedule and submit it to the MSBA. The ESBC voted last night on the final project budget and schedule, and then subsequently met with the school committee to seek their endorsement for that project budget and schedule, and received that last evening as well. And tonight we're going to be seeking the same endorsement from the Select Board, and in anticipation of submitting our schematic design report to the MSBA next week.
The revised construction estimate presented was approximately $10.2 million less than the proposal from back in March 2023.
When that's compared to the Marathon School, the school is roughly 3 times larger, and we've seen 36% construction inflation since that time. So we're looking at a school that's $18.4 million less than what an escalated equivalent school would have been by Marathon standards.
The project is expected to receive about $50 million in reimbursements, including $44 to $46 million from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, $2 million from the Mass Save program, and $5 million in Inflation Reduction Act rebates. Town residents would be responsible for approximately $105 to $108 million of the project.
You're looking at the potential town contribution of that being somewhere in the $105 to $108 million range to get your new 1,195 student elementary schools.
The Select Board voted in favor of the proposal. 4 voted for the proposal, and Chair Muriel Kramer abstained.
The only thing I would add is something I added at the meeting last night, which is the committee has necessarily been so cost-focused throughout this process, and we're really proud of the work that's been done. But I want to highlight that none of these expense discussions have come in any way at the expense of the educational model that will be able to be delivered in this building. At no point did we face a decision where we said if we go this way, it'll cost less, but we may not be able to deliver the education that Hopkinton expects for its students. And so as proud as we are of the work we've done to bring this number down, I think we're even more proud of the fact that we've been able to do it while maintaining that extremely high standard.
The proposal will be voted on at a special town meeting that is estimated to be scheduled in sometime late October or November. 2/3 of voters must approve at the special town meeting, and a special election would follow. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are here with new Hopkinton High School Athletic Director, Ricky Andrade. Ricky, how are you? And welcome to Hopkinton High School.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to a really successful season coming up.
Absolutely. And well, to start, can you tell us about your background and what led you to becoming the Hopkinton High School athletic director?
Sure. So I am coming from Needham High School. I worked there for 5 years, and I coached soccer. I coached track and field and unified track and field, as well as worked in the special education department and did a number of other kind of roles throughout my time there. I also had an internship with the MIAA in the middle of that, kind of as part of my master's program with Northeastern. And so I was able to learn a little bit more about the kind of organizing body of high school athletics, and got to be a part of some planning for different committees and different events like the Sportsmanship Summit and some wellness events as well. And so 3 years ago now, I was given the opportunity to be the assistant athletic director over in Needham. And part of that job was overseeing a club sport aspect of athletics that was similar to interscholastic athletics, where the teams faced off against other schools, but they had a little bit of a different model because they practiced 3 times a week, and a lot of their practices and competitions were actually off-site. So those programs were like squash and fencing and sailing and ultimate frisbee, and those kind of all fell under my purview while I was in Needham. And Needham has the largest public school athletic department in the state. And so kind of coming from that, when I had the opportunity to interview for the Hopkinton position, I looked back at that and I said, this is a similar program in that there's a high emphasis on success in academics and in athletics. And I felt that my skill set fit that, coming from a spot where very similarly, the community and town, the school really emphasized academic excellence and athletic excellence and excellence in everything that they do. And so I felt kind of like a natural fit in Hopkinton. And I, relayed that through my interview process. And, I'm looking forward to continuing kind of the development and growth as the community continues to grow. And also looking forward to kind of potentially bringing on some more programs and giving more options to our student athletes to be able to compete in the things that they love to do. So that's really what's exciting about being in Hopkinton, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody.
I think what's great about your background is if they bring any of those other sports they don't have here, like fencing, I think you might have said sailing, all about them, so you'll be able to organize them well.
Yeah, they're definitely unique. So
absolutely. So you just started this position in July, and now we're in preparation for the fall season. How is preparation going for the fall season, and how are the teams looking so far?
Prep has been great. We're athletic directors are always a season ahead, at least. So I'm actually, I've been looking not only at the fall, but also at the winter, making sure that our ice time is set up and our swimming pool set up, and schedules are kind of, our league schedules are set and non-league stuff are set. As far as the fall goes, we have great resources. And so, we have a schedule of practices and games that, unfortunately, due to some issues with busing and officials, may end up getting moved. So it's always kind of a puzzle that we have to put together. And it changes constantly. And we always I ask of my coaches and I ask of the community, like, be flexible. Things are changing constantly and things change day by day. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how our teams compete on the field. I know, last year, boys of soccer made it to the state final. They're going to be pretty strong again this year. Girls soccer looks very strong as well. In field hockey, it's kind of up and coming as well. Volleyball, I know the tradition of volleyball here is again strong, and I know Emma, the volleyball coach, has done a great job with the program, and we had some great numbers come up for tryouts. And then, as always, our cross country teams are historically strong, and it looks like they're going to continue to compete and be top of the division. And then looking at football. Football's we're going to always be optimistic. And I think, Mark Sanborn's got a great program and he's developing some great kids. And, I look forward to seeing them be competitive in the league and in the non-league games, and making sure that they're doing kind of, creating that culture that I know Mark wants to create.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. It's been a lot of fun broadcasting these Hopkinton games recently because it seems pretty much every single team is very competitive throughout the state. So I think you'll have a good time watching these teams, especially some of these fall teams. So have you had a chance to meet any of the fall coaches? And what's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, I've met with every fall coach at this point. Every we have a really strong group of coaches that have been doing it for a while. Many of whom are in the school as teachers, and so they have that background, that educational background that is great to have as a coach, where they see kind of things, not just strictly from a competitive, standpoint. They're looking at it kind of at the whole development of the student athlete and what's going to benefit them. And so that's been great. And the coaches, like I said, a lot of them, we were very fortunate that this fall I didn't have to hire a new varsity coach, which is not a common thing. And so, it's again, we've been fortunate to have coaches who have been there a long time, who know what they're doing and can kind of handle, all the pressures that come with coaching, and also do a good job at mastering their craft and kind of helping kids develop and grow. So I've met with all of them. I've met with most of our winter coaches as well. And so I'm trying to be kind of like a sponge and take in a lot of information, because again, they have all that information and they're great resources that I've been able to use throughout the start.
And how has the adjustment been from your prior job? I know there's a great support staff over there. Have they made it easy for you to adjust?
Yeah, no, they definitely have. Lou, our secretary, has been around for a long time and has incredible institutional knowledge and is so helpful just with everything from ordering to scheduling to, here's who to go to contact if you need help with this or that. Amanda, our trainer, has been here for a while now and is great, is a fantastic trainer who really cares about the kids and is always at games and out at practices and make sure that people know that she's there to help them and to help them get back from injury. And so she's awesome. And then we actually just hired an assistant athletic director who is going to be a part-time assistant AD. His name is Jaquan James, and he's been great so far too. I'm looking forward to working with him, and I know that he's gonna bring a lot of value to the program as well.
That's terrific. And you mentioned that uh, you'd like to see perhaps some new programs over at Hopkinton High School. I'm just curious, is there any programs in particular that you would like to see that you really enjoyed having a part of over at your previous work?
Yeah. So, one of the biggest ones that has come up is the kind of want for a boys volleyball team. In the spring in Needham, boys volleyball has won 3 straight state titles. So I've seen and been a part of a program that is very successful, and I can see that, that the coach over there has done a great job of growing that program, and I think that's something that could really truly happen here. It will take time, but I think if the interest is there, it's something that I want to, start to expand on and really grow the program if we can. I'm also looking at trying to add more opportunities for some of our female athletes to get involved. In Needham, I started the girls flag football program in the last spring, which was an amazing program that, the girls got to play 10 games in the season. And then they actually ended the season at a tournament at Gillette Stadium on the big field. And it was a pretty awesome experience. And so I think, if the interest is there for that as well, that would be an incredible program to have. I'm planning on kind of sending out a list of a survey out to the student body to see, where the interest lies. I know that the population in this town has kind of flipped a little bit, and there's a lot of Southeast Asian people moving in. And so, if their interest is in cricket or in another sport that they're familiar with, maybe we look into trying to provide that sport within the program. So there's still a lot of moving parts, and I think there's definitely an appetite for some more programs that we could potentially offer. And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting input from the stakeholders, the students, to decide before deciding like what we're going to add and what we're going to look to improve upon.
Absolutely. That all sounds great to me. And we would certainly be happy to cover those programs on HCAM as well.
Yep.
Uh, Ricky, I'm just curious. Is there a favorite sport that you like to watch or follow?
So, I get asked this question a good amount, and truly, I enjoy watching all the student athletes play their sport that they love. One of the teams that's always near and dear to me is Unified Basketball and Unified Track and Fields. Unified Basketball is an incredible sport that brings together students with special needs and students who are typical students, and they get on the same court and they're playing together. And a lot of times, you don't know who is who, which is exactly what it's for. And so, you have kids that have never really been able to be a part of a team, and this allows them to be able to be a part of that, to be a part of our program and to be together. And so I think it's truly that's the foundation of what sports should be, is getting kids together to play and have a good time. And that's, to me, I love watching unified basketball games. I love watching unified track and field meets. And I am a soccer guy, but I love watching all of our teams compete.
Well, speaking of that, you mentioned it earlier. The boys soccer team, they qualified for the state championship last year and had one of the toughest losses that I've ever seen, unfortunately, but it was a tremendous season. And this year they're ranked 18th by the Metro West Daily News in the state. Have you had a chance to check in on that team yet? I know they got a lot of great talent coming back.
Yeah, they do. They do have some talent coming back. They have some talent that came in this year as well. And so I know that expectations are high. I think, Coach Garrett Sawyer has done a great job of kind of resetting expectations, thinking forward and not thinking about the past, and making sure that the guys are focused on, what's ahead and kind of taking it day by day. Because I think that's important to know, you're not going to be able to just replicate what happened last year without a lot of hard work and effort, and a good reset a lot of times is what helps you get there. So I think the boys soccer team is in good shape this year.
Absolutely. And we'll be talking to the Hiller head coaches and captains very soon in our preview, which you'll be able to see right here on HCAM Sports Talk or our weekly newscast in some cases. And we're certainly looking forward to the fall season and working with you. Ricky, again, congratulations. Welcome to Hopkinton, and should be a lot of fun working with you and covering this fall season.
Thank you, Tom. I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the fields this fall.
We are going to take a quick time out. You are tuned in to HCAM News. A whole lot more ahead. Don't go anywhere. HCAM programming is supported by our viewers, thank you, and by Phipps Insurance Agency, representing companies such as MapFree Insurance. Their family-owned independent agency is deeply rooted in the communities they serve and offer time-tested insurance products to fit individual needs. Since 1950, Phipps Insurance specializes in home, auto, business, condo, and renters insurance. Welcome back to HCAM News. HCAM intern reporter Sidhi Dhanda recently caught up with Town Clerk Connor Degan on a brand new episode of Out on the Town. Here's a look at the interview, and don't forget to catch the brand new episode of Out on the Town airing soon on HCAM.
Initially, it was I had just gotten off of a job because I was in kind of the more politics side of it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. How do I kind of refocus it and find what I want to do? And when I came back home to kind of figure that out, I had heard from a neighbor that I grew up knowing for my time in town my whole life. And she was like, oh, the clerk's actually looking for someone to help out. And I'm like, oh, well, that would be a good way to see if maybe I want to do something in local government. And so I went and I asked and ended up being there for about 10 or 11 months before she was ready to retire. And then it was like, well, I was looking and I hadn't really given it too much thought before. I'm like, I don't know how many other people are really ready to run for this or able to run for this right now. And so I kind of started to put out my feelers about it, and people were receptive to the idea. And so I thought maybe I actually have a shot of running for this after all, and I went for it from there and tried to make as many community connections as I could so that I could really build it. I didn't want it to just be, I want to get this. I wanted to really earn it and make those connections and make people want me to be there.
What was it like running like your first election at like such a young age too?
It was so eye-opening and so stressful and crazy every step of the way, but it was so much fun because you got to meet so many people on so many different levels. I mean, it was so fun to make connections with people who didn't really know me. And so I got to have this whole chance to have a sit down and talk with people and get to know them and the things that were concerning them in the community. It was just so special to get those connections in. And then it just kind of took on from there. And I was so lucky to have my family who was so supportive and so many friends who supported me too, even when it came to things like holding signs for me. But, and they'll tell you too, up until the moment the results were read, I was still thinking, oh no, I might still lose this. I need to brace myself for the impact. And it was I actually had a huge margin, and they're like, why were you even worrying, Connor? It's like, because I don't want to like go in thinking that I'm going to win. Then I don't really deserve it if I just think, oh, it should just be given to me. So, yeah.
Was like political service, political engagement, civil engagement, was that a big part of how you were raised?
Yeah, so I mean, for not to the same degree that I got into it. I've always found politics, government to be fascinating. But my parents, when I was growing up, they actually were, my mother was very involved in making sure that kind of, this was our home. When they moved here, they wanted to become a part of this community. And I still remember one time there was a discussion on changing the name of our street growing up. And my mother was there at a select board meeting, and we were watching her on HCAM at the time as she was explaining to them why they shouldn't change the name of the street. And it was stuff like that I saw as, how much of an impact people can have, because then the select board ended up making a compromise rather than just going ahead and changing the street as requested. And I saw how much that impact can be made, and I saw that multiple times then over the course of seeing my parents interact with town government.
It's pretty interesting. I love that you saw your mom have like an impact on the community. Now you get to do the same.
Yep.
So as town clerk, I know that's a very like broad job. You have a lot of different roles. Do you want to give us like a quick overview of like what you kind of like day-to-day looks like?
The best part about being town clerk is that day-to-day is never the same. Because we do a whole lot of everything. And I like to say that whenever the state can't figure out who in the town should be doing a job, they just give it to the clerk and say, you can do it. It's like, oh, we don't know who should be doing the raffle permit, so we'll give that to the town clerk. And so flammable storage, let's go ahead and give that registration to the clerk. So, I mean, it can be a lot of doing dog licenses day to day. Sometimes it's getting people's business certificates all set. And then there's always the looking at making sure people have access to records, including birth records and death records, a lot of genealogy research, but also people coming in and getting their marriage licenses. And you get these fun moments, and I like to say we see people at every point in their lives. We see people when they're coming in to get married. We see them back here for their first child to pick up their birth certificates, and we see them when they lose a loved one and we're issuing the death certificate, but we're having these conversations with them, and it's maintaining that sense of community by having our office be that point of contact.
It's time to tell you about some happenings in town you should know about on Tuesday, September 19th at 7 p.m. at the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. Hopkinton parents and caregivers can learn strategies to include mental health as part of their parenting, how to identify when loved ones need support for mental health, how and where to get professional support, how to use strategies for self-care for themselves and their loved ones, and much more. A great program for parents and caregivers, Tuesday, September 19th, 7 p.m. at the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. For more information, you can view our website, hcam.tv. The Hopkinton Women's Club and the Hopkinton Emergency Fund present their second annual golf tournament Monday, September 18th at the Shining Rock Country Club over in Northbridge. For information and registration, you could head over to the Hopkinton Emergency Fund website at hopkintonemergencyfund.org or the Hopkinton Women's Club website at hopkintonwomensclub.org. Hopkinton Family Day this year will take place on Saturday, September 23rd from 2 to 9 p.m. at the Hopkinton Middle and High School fields. Join us for some fun for all ages, some great entertainment, and typically a great fireworks show as well at Hopkinton Family Day, Saturday, September 23rd, 2 to 9 p.m. Our picture of the week is courtesy of Kristen Harris of the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum. This photo is from this past Sunday. Boston Tea Party commemoration event was held at Evergreen Cemetery in Hopkinton, honoring Patriot John Dickman for his participation in the Boston Tea Party with a commemorative grave marker. A great ceremony for a great patriot, John Dickman, a Hopkinton local who was involved in the Boston Tea Party. Upcoming government meetings include on Tuesday, September 5th at 6 p.m. We'll have the Select Board meeting live on HCAM, and on Thursday, September 7th at 7 p.m. on our HCAM Ed channel, we'll have the school committee meeting. To view all upcoming town government meetings, head over to hcam.tv/gov. And for more information, you can go to the town website at hopkintonma.gov. Believe it or not, we are out of time for this edition of HCAM News, but don't worry, next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., we will be back. For everyone at HCAM, I'm Tom Nappy. As always, we thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you again very soon. Thanks again for watching HCAM. Take care. Be well.